Hello, my name is Brian Jimenez, and this is my social action project, and the theme of it would be line forming. So, background when it comes to my project is that I did my service learning at a school named Monterey Park Elementary School in Salinas, and I started it on February the 25th. Usually, when it comes to service learning, students are required to work inside a classroom, but unfortunately, I did not actually get the chance to be inside an actual room with a teacher and students because of conflicts with my schedule and classes and whatnot. And so I actually got the chance to work with an after school program, and thankfully, it's so with kids. And basically in this after school program there's three groups, and it would be the first group, which would be K to second, the second group being third to fourth, I'm sorry, and the third group being four to sixth. And in my group A being the K to second, there was a total of 20 students within that group. So read of the world, understanding an issue within my students, something that I was able to see that is that with these students in particular, they were very it was very difficult for them to form a line for whatever reason it may be, and there was a lot of pushing, shoving, and cutting, and some students would get their feelings hurt and just get offended over getting cut or pushed within the line. And because of this, it was very hard to get their attention whenever I needed to get their attention. Researching the world, when it comes to understanding why students couldn't form a line, it was actually pretty difficult because, at this day and age, like us as adults, like if someone were to cut us, like we wouldn't really make a big deal. But like at the end of the day, they're kids and they kind of take things a little bit more to heart. So maybe that's the reason why they would get so offended when someone would cut them or push them or whatnot. And I try to ask them why they couldn't necessarily form a line, and I'd get a lot of I don't know answers and inconsistent answers that wouldn't really give me sufficient data to come up with a proper conclusion as to why they couldn't form it. And as an adult figure, I figured that I could use this as my advantage because um children are basically programmed in schools to always listen to adults whenever they are told to, if it's in the proper setting. And we're in schools, and as a service learner, they're out to listen to me whenever I tell them something. And because of this, I was able to come up with a strategy that would be not only effective but also easy enough for the children to be able to understand what is going on. And when it comes to the course readings, there were two course readings that actually went well with this project. The first one being Gangsters, Wanksters, and Riders by Jeff Duncan Andrade. And one quote that I really found that was pretty cool was, effective work in urban communities requires tremendous commitment and effort, but we must avoid the notions that only exceptional people and circumstances allow for success. In other words, basically, if you want to if you want to see change in wherever you're at, like there's no reason why you can't make an attempt. We can't just say that, oh, only the best of the best can create change in whatever there needs to be. People like you and me, like us, so we could be normal and still try to make an impact within our group of people, and basically in that same article there was a terminology of Raida that is being defined as people who would sooner die than let their people down. In other words, they're basically people who or teachers that would care about their students regardless if it's a failing school. So for example, if a school is technically like down bad or something, they wouldn't give up on their students, like kind of like a scene with the movie Freedom Riders, if you guys have seen it. And that's basically what I want to try to be with my students. And another article that really fit well was actually the shame about shaming, because with this article we learned that as teachers we must try to avoid having anything that puts a student into shame or like does anything to embarrass them. And with the lines that I'm about to introduce in this presentation, I basically made it in a way that wouldn't discriminate anybody or put anybody into shame if they don't know how to necessarily do something right. But most importantly, something that won't make them feel so bad. And number four, develop a collective plan. I decided to at least like what would be appropriate would be for me to at least make four different types of lines with the students. And as listed right here, the four lines were boy, girl, lining up by height from shortest to tallest, lining up in two lines basically by partners. So I get to choose one partner, and then there's another pair of partners in front of me, and so on and so on. And then free choice being that the students get to choose however they want to line up, but the only catch is that they can't cut whatsoever. And if the students cut cutting, they would be moved to the back of the line. And in a way, like that is kind of putting them on the spot, but it's not necessarily shaming because students know very well that it's up to them if they get sent to the back of the line because nobody's forcing them to cut anybody else, you know. And number five, implementing the collective plan. um, the way that I decided to do this was basically that each line will basically be a whole week thing. So even though I only went there for one day, my colleagues had actually were very helpful with being able to keep that same pattern for the rest of the week when I was not there. And basically how it would be like at the beginning of each day that I'd be there, I'd announce the line to the kids and tell them exactly how it's going to be. And surprisingly they understood it very well, and I was actually very proud that they did that. And after the first pattern was done, every other week basically I would give them surveys so they could give me feedback on how much they liked or disliked the pattern that they had the week before. And here are some examples of the pictures of the lines that I had. As you guys can see in this picture, we could see the boy girl line, and you can see the proper pattern right here. And right here, shortest to tallest. We have basically the shortest being up here, the tallest in the back. We actually had a student right here who is not necessarily within the pattern, but that's because she had just arrived when I had taken the picture, so it wasn't I didn't want to spend more time trying to create the line for one student. I just wanted to get everybody in and take the picture. And right here in partners, basically, it was a little hard to take pictures of the students without them showing their faces because you know K to second they tend to move around a lot, as you can see with the student who, when I clearly told them to just please face forward, they still, one of these students still didn't do it. So I just try to do as best I can with the pictures. And for number four, I that week it was a little too rushed, so I couldn't necessarily have a picture be taken. But that was another line that I had implemented. And number six, evaluate the action. The lines were created to test out different effectiveness. So see like which line could work better. Maybe boy, girl works better, or free choice works better. Who knows, you know? And that's why I wanted to implement these lines to test out how effective each of them were. And when I received the surveys from the students, they actually showed quite a lot of opinions from each students, and I honestly took I appreciated that the students actually cared enough to give me their honest opinion. And the line patterns were, how I mentioned before, they were created in a way to avoid any type of discrimination, and that's how it should always be, no matter whether it be lines or seating charts, no, whatever it is. Educators should always strive to make their lesson plans or any type of system in their classrooms be in a way that avoids any discrimination and any type of shaming. And overall effectiveness of these lines was actually pretty well in the positive because once students understood the patterns pretty well, they managed to stick within their lines when I wasn't there, especially for the boy girl line. One of my colleagues was telling me how even before she had told them to get in that form, they automatically did it, and I was like, oh, that's pretty dope, you know. And then that tells me that basically they took the patterns very serious because I remember for the free choice, when even before I would say something, like I would already hear the students say like, oh, like the like don't cut, like if you cut, you know, you have to go to the back of the line and this and that. And that made me realize that they actually did understand what they were being told to. And the responses to the surveys were actually very honest, they, whether they liked it or not, like they told me, and I was like, okay, like there's nothing wrong with you disliking it or liking it, it's your honest opinion. And here are some examples of the surveys. Right here in this column, I have boy, girl, and this one right here in the highline. For example, right here for boy, girl, one of my students named Johnny liked it because he said that you get to meet other people. And right here, for the highline, another student named Aiden said he only liked it a little bit simply because he was one of the tallest and he was in the back of the line and he kind of didn't like that, but overall he on the side I do remember him telling me how it didn't seem that much of a hard line to do. And right here we have free choice line and partner line. Free choice, we could see that both of these students actually liked it because like um for one of them like that means nobody could cut them, and that's good, you know, because that means that they consciously know that they shouldn't be cutting. And right here, one student really liked it, one student didn't like it. My student named Alexia liked it because she got to be with her partner who's her friend, and they could talk. But another student didn't necessarily like it because he didn't want to be with the partner that he was at the beginning. And here are my references